So if you have purchased the LandCraft and successfully able to open this, and or if you have migrated to your project or add to your project, then you have this LandCraft folder, and this is the level we are in. The level is here, the maps, there is this only overview level. So this LandCraft contains these folders. The blueprint is just for to create your custom textures, like baked normal textures, 2-channel normals. You have the demo, the folders for like demo stuff. The important thing is the materials and the textures. So in the materials, you have these material instances that you can directly use. So we have a plane that is using the water, and we have the landscape that is using this MI LandCraft. And in the folders, we have the functions. We have the landscape folders, which are the layer instances, layer and layer blend instances. And we have the grass types and the layer infos for this specific landscape. So you can just delete everything about the height displacement in the level, and you can still use this same layer infos without creating new ones. So the grass types are like preset. You can use these names and just set it whatever you want. Like I know that in my grass 6 I have the forest, so I have these trees or 3 different indexes. But this workflow I will soon replace with the land PCG. This is optimized for CPU based, like it will not use collision, so that's a problem. But you can see I migrated the PCG mesh default these placeholders, so it will just represent what is going on in the landscape. So we have this materials folder again, and we have the masters. So this bakecraft will for the baking operation. We have the LandCraft as the master material, a water material, and the master layer as the landscape layer, and the landscape blender. So you will not need to touch any of these. We have these material instances, or we can just create a new instance from scratch. Actually, let's do it. In the materials, I'm just creating a new material. Open this. In the details, I will set the parent as the LandCraft and LandCraft. So this is my landscape material. I will not touch any of these settings. You will see this is a really less amount because this layered workflow is happening on the layer parameters. So if you come to the window, you have the layer parameters, and we are going to build our layer stack here. So first, let's assign our material to the landscape. Let's get rid of everything. All right. So we have the blank landscape now. And let's see, in the background, you have the layer asset slot. So you will just assign a landscape layer here. And you will see all these parameters that makes up a material. We are just going to use it as a layer, and we will use multiple layers here. So this is the default landscape layer. In the textures, you have these slots, and you have the control on what kind of texture packing you are using. So by default, as normal, landscapes are usually need albedo and normal minimum. So in the textures folder, I have these presets, PBR sets. And if I come to the textures, I can set a grassy texture, like for example this one. This is the albedo. It's a nice texture. And I have the normal added, and I have the displacement. Right now I don't want to use the displacement. If I need, then I can add in the future, but I will just keep it clean and organized. So what I want to show you is after you set your textures in the layers, this is just for the what kind of attributes you want to use to optimize this. So first you need to set up your textures. You have different multiple options, and then you have the UV logic, what kind of mapping we will use. So the scale will, as you can see, it's a general scale, but I have this repetition, obvious repetition. So what we have, we can use a distance blend here. If I enable this, you will see there is a distance and a much higher, larger scale of textures tiling here. So this is like 10 times bigger. So if we make it like 4, it will be less. But okay, this is a one thing. So like from up, top down, from this distance, it's nice to have this distance blend. But we still have the repetition here. So this is where we are going to enable the tiling variation. So I will just enable this. All these parameters will show up, and you will see immediately the repetition in the close to the camera is gone, but we have still going on the distance because we didn't enable the distant tiling variation. But let's first look what's going on here. So without the tiling repetition, tiling variation, and when I enable this, you will see. So we are having a Voronoi texture pattern going on. You can see the texture pattern, the tiling. It's really high dense. So like two maybe like bigger patches are blending. 4, nice. It's a nice one, and you can also offset amount to directly see what's going on. So each island will offset in different direction and different amount, and they will be blending very nicely. Really hard to noticeable any issues. And so what about the distance? We can enable distant tiling variation, and it will be the same thing for the distance. Offset amount, you can see it's a really big patches, so I can decrease the scale, and it will break up very nicely. So this is really hard to noticeable. It's all gone on the far distance or the close up. Okay, this is my general UV logic for breakup and distance. And last thing, we have this fake shadow. This workflow is based on the parallax actually, and because I need to hide information, if I come over here and enable the displacement texture, I will have the displacement texture slot, and I will just plug my displacement texture. So this will be really modular workflow. You will just enable this sampler count if you need in this layer specifically. And now we have the displacement information. Without the nanite tessellation, we don't see any difference. And this deform information, it will not work anything like the amount of contrast, because the displacement workflow requires the nanite, or we can use this data in the fake shadow. So right now this fake shadow is based on the sun direction. So we have sun is coming this way, and let's see. Oh yeah. So we set the displacement channel is set to blue because most of the time you will have the like ORD or packed displacement. So if you select the red channel, and the fake displacement will read the correct channel, and then it will show the shadow height. If I set it to 0, this is the without the shadow. And if I enable this and increase slowly, and you will see we have this shadow going on, and this is really like responsive to the sun. If I change the sun direction, you can see. So if I really lower this, there will be some obvious artifacts. Here you can see some stepping in the parallax. Here it's more obvious, and if I just increase, I can just increase the shadow steps to 32, 40, 64, 128, and it will be gone. But it really adds some depth without any displacement. It's working very nice. And lastly, the shadow strength is set to 0.6 to blend, like it will be darkening the base color value below. So 1 will be completely black, you don't want that, like, and 0 will be no effect, so just a little bit. And I try to keep most of the default values as good as this. Only the shadow step is really needs some extra, it depends on the angle, not like a normal angle, but we need to make it like a little bit dramatic. Okay, so this is like with the one layer we have all this rich layer, I believe. It's really nice to have. And let's see what we can do more. So I want to show what is the blending operation is going on with the layers. So this is our first layer. Then we will just come over here to the add button. You will just add a new layer. You can name your layer and select a new landscape layer. And you can set the textures again. Like for example, I don't know, what is this? Okay, this is some kind of rocky terrain. This could be more on the hillside. So let's assign the normal again, and maybe enable the displacements beforehand, because we might need for the blending. So we have a totally new layer on top of everything, and I will just assign this landscape blender. Right now, in the landscape blender, you have the base mask, detail mask, paint mask. This is the logic to create a masking. And in the blend, you have some options like debug will be debugging the mask that you are working with, which can be also like paint mask, grass map, or base mask. All can be debugged. So by default, it will use the blend, the master blend. And we have the base mask now. We can see we have a lot of options to use as the base mask, and we have the top layer amount. Without selecting anything, this will be the top layer amount, will be the general lerp. I can use like this. So I need some kind of distance masking logic. So with this rocky, we have this rocky texture. I want to use some kind of slope blending based on the angle, and we have these slope parameters that will come up once we enable this, and immediately you will see as the default values will be working very nicely. You can see we have this natural good amount, we have this blend, and if we debug this now, you will see this, there will be a gradient, this transition happening. It's really rich actually. If I enable the debug, because it is the values between 1 and 0, there will be no each layer will be try to blend, and it will be like smooth gradients, and we don't want that. Like this rocks, I want to see the rocks fully. So what is the idea here? So the base mask will create the general mapping for the blend. So whenever we have the fully white or fully black areas, there will be full of the layers of top or bottom. But with the gradient, there will be this transition area, which we can now open and work with the detail mask. So in the detail mask, we have two options. You can use either overall transition or blend transition. Let's see overall transition, what is going to do. By default, it is set to height lerp, and it is set to bottom layer, and we can see we are using the displacement map of the bottom layer. If we play with the height amount and contrast, we can see this pattern from the bottom layer. If you can remember, we have some small rocks, and since this is like the white values will be the top and the bottom dark values will be the bottom layer, but I want to have the rock of the bottom layer to be able to see, so I need to invert this. I hope it makes sense. Right now I have this white value, which will be the new layer on top of it. Let's see without the debug value now. So let's see. Yeah, I can see some things going on here. Like first, there is a smooth transition because the top layer doesn't have enough value. Like if I increase the amount, there will be close to white, but still this smooth blending happening. But if I increase the height value, now I have the fully stone from the background layer. And if I keep increasing, then I will start to reveal the fully of the background. So the top layer will try to cover on the low parts of the top layer. I hope it makes sense. This is what it looks like with the debug. This is the detail mask, and this is the base mask. Like the base mask, I guess it's easy to understand. But now this is the overall transition, which will apply this detail mask on everywhere, which I don't want this. I want to have the blend. I want to break up the smooth blending, this area. So I will just enable the blend transition, and then we will have the same thing, but it will only work on the gradient area. So here we are controlling this gradient area by the contrast of the base mask. Remember, the amount of the slope will determine where will be the blend is happening, and the contrast will show how much the area we are having. And since this is the slope with the base on the vertex, you can see each up down this slopes, this vertex displacements will create the masking here. So by default, I think I want to be using the default values. And let's see on the height mask. So this is without any blending. So this is the white values of the slope mask. And now this is the lowest, no. So we have this gradient area in between here, and we are just creating this pattern from the bottom layer of the displacement. So we will start to see our stones, and we can also change which layer we are sampling the displacement. So I can use from the top layer, and let's see what does it look like. So you can see this rock is disappearing first, so I need to invert this, and then you can see I'm immediately start to see this rock by the displacement. It is masking out, and I have this patches here, these small rocks blending, and if I lower the contrast here, I will have more area to have the detail mask working. So this is really nice to and easy to control. Like, this is really start to breaking up the pattern. And since all this setup is procedural, so you set this blend asset additionally, but you have the textures, and if I set the textures to a different one, for example this one, and I have the normal and the displacement. So right now, again, we are using the displacement from top layer, so we will start to see our big rocks, which is really big actually. I want to make them smaller, so I can come over here on the top layer, I can increase the scale, and it will immediately affect the layer and the blend, because the blend is directly feeding from the top layer. So here I can use, and you can see I immediately see the rocks here, and I have this nice soil actually going on, but the color is what is stressing me, and I think it's now a good opportunity to show off what we can do with the color options. So here, like, I have this ground transition, and I want to make them look closer to each other. So we are working with the top layer. I'm just enabling this, and in the color section we have the control for general brightness, contrast, desaturation, everything. So let's see, we have the difference between the colors of the rocks, so we can make it a little bit warmer in the new rocks here, like this, so they will just match all together. And the rocks, the soil is already start blending better, but I want to make it a little bit more belongs to the bottom layer. So what is the issue here? If I try to match the soil to the ground, I will lose the stones. So I want to mask again by the displacement. So we have this option, this albedo mask. So we are masking the albedo by the displacement right now, and we can see the mask actually easily when we set the brightness to 0. So you can now see the displacement is blocking the color, and if I increase the contrast here, albedo mask contrast like 10, so I can see the displacement map from here. We are using this data very deeply here. So I have this mask now, so everything I set, I will just affecting this area, I will not touch the stones. So if I like increase, it will not touch the stones. I can like increase the color a little bit, make it a little bit less contrasty or higher contrast, I'm not sure. Oh, not this contrast. So let's see, we have the tint, and we can just match the tint like this. can see on the distance also maybe a little bit greenish, something like this. Alright, so we have only 2 layers, and now I immediately see this pattern, this styling issue. Let me just open the UV logic. So think like this, a modular system that each layer that will have a different logic, and you can customize and increase the potential by like art direction, technical art direction. So if we come over to the top layer, I will just want to affect this layer, and I want to add some things to it. Let's say I will add the tiling variation. So this will immediately add a breakdown of the repetition, and I have this shadows here looking very nice, but I don't enable this. So let's add the shadow also. And let's see what we have with the default values. It's already looking very nice. Like this system is really like without the shadows, and with the more dramatic light it will be more dramatic effects. And with only 2 layers we are achieving some very nice environment here. There's no any seams, any blending, and all the normals are, all this rotation, everything is really all calculated very well, and without the displacement, without the tessellation, this is already looking very deep and rich. And with the spawning some rocks, there will be much wonderful richness, variations. And the beautiful thing about this system is like fully modular, so I can continue to add each layer and create a full logic. But let's see what kind of complex layer we have here. I just swapped the landscape material, and in this LandCraft material we have the similar thing actually. Right now we have the grass, and we have all this foliage spawning. But what if we want to see a different background layer? So I open this. First, in the background, as you can see, this is the ML landscape layer, and I'm actually happy with this layer. I can maybe a little bit darkening, too much yellowish thing. Yeah, it could be nice. And we have this variation. I can just come to the noise overlay, and I will have a cloud noise here. So I'm using cloud noise on the material. You'll immediately see some kind of breakdown happening. So maybe we don't need to increase, or maybe 2075, and we can choose a different channel. And this will be a little bit adding some color variation. With the low contrast, there will be less differences between the masking. So if we have like high contrast, there will be harsh transition. We are just reducing, making it a little bit softer, like this. So I'm happy with this. Then I can come to here, save as a child in the landscape. Like I have this, but mil underscore land grass variation. So I have saved this to here, and right now let's try a different texture. First I want to get rid of this grass maps, so I can just disable this, and in the textures what I want to have is that previous one we were working, so I just assign these textures and it will immediately adjust everything to this new version of the landscape. So maybe we can try to adapt this soil to this background, like the vice versa previously. So I can come over to the color of the background layer. I can use a albedo mask, and I will need to have a displacement here to create a mask. I'm just assigning this, and in the albedo mask let's see, well, we have the tessellation enabled here, so I maybe want to offset the values. So in the deform, yeah, this is really offsetting too much. 25 and lower the displacement. All right. So right now, let's come over and see the color again. Increase the contrast. Maybe a little harsh. So now we are masking the ground. All right. One thing I want to advise is to disable the RVT when you are building up the materials, because it will try to load up every time. It's not useful. Okay, now we have masked this area. Let's try to adjust the color to the here, back to here. So I can just increase the desaturation. 0.5 is immediately going to lose the color and adjust to the bigger rocks. Maybe increase the brightness a little bit. 1 is good. Okay. Now I can think like this rocks also belongs to this layer. So we have already nice and looking. So let's go for the albedo mask. So we already lose the color a little bit, and it is actually looking nice. Let's see. We have this darker color. We have a really dark soil. Like we can think this maybe some volcanic soil, like this. I mean, they are really looking like all together. And beautiful thing about the layers, now I have this layer, but after all this decisions, if I'm not happy with the result, I can just come to my landscape, and I have these layer instances. I can just select my previously I have saved this landscape grass, just come to here, assign this, and you will see it will swap the layers and it will not touch anything, because everything is already structured here as a modular pieces, and we are just changing the module to here like this. Or I can use a beach. So what I want to show you is I have this land beach, and I have this land beach also here with the same textures. So how can we, and if I come to here on the background, I have the same land beach here. I can assign this, but what I want to show you is the changes I will do here, it will only affect this background layer. So if I come to here, lower the brightness, it will affect this only. But each layer will have a really different values for the displacement. And we just need to come over here, lower the contrast like this, and see how is the transition going on, which is looking very nice. All right, so I have the third person. Let's see the collision here. As you can see, we have a clipping issue with the lower or higher any part is a problem. So if I come to here on the beach, if I lower this, so this will be my default height. You can control, this is the 0, and I'm just increasing a little bit to match it. I think it's very nice. So if we come to here, we have a huge problem, not very huge, but we have this problem here. So we need to come to gravel, layer, deform. So we have already set some, let's zero this, and you can see it is already working very nicely. To clip with these rocks, but this is the trade-off we have to make. But I guess, the default values are really okay usually, just not in this case. So I believe this is really a nice way to start with your first layered landscape. Actually, there's a lot of going on, but I believe this is the final product. I will later on implement the PCG and spawn all these trees on the PCG, and the landscape material will keep focusing on the creating the rich with procedural logic without any splat maps, anything. Like, I really want to create landscapes without any external data, external things. So I hope it makes sense. I hope it makes you curious and want to grab this and support me in along the way. I'm try to create this lovely UI. Like, this is how easy It is to change the whole landscape to different environment. Like we have this beach. It's really like some kind of dunes, except it's trees and snow. But you know, you can. I have this slot in the background. If I change this to the grass, it will immediately populate everything. And I have display disabled. No, it will spawn the grasses. Yes, you have this grasses will be spawning everywhere, and this is like the full logic of this layer. So with the grasses, and if I just set this to a different layer, which is a grass but a different color, without the grass maps or with the grass maps, but I can maybe like say, okay, this will be also spawning a forest. And now we will see a whole forest, exactly the area with the grass. And you can further adjust in the PCG with different logic. Alright. Some sloping textures. Looking very nice. Let's see the snow, like if everywhere is covered with snow. Uh-huh. Very nice. Alright. I hope it makes you curious and try this huge material. Take care and see you on the fab.